Hey ladies, welcome back to On Fire Group Coaching. This is episode 2. Today we're going to dive into the subject that's caused you years of stress, guilt and confusion. Nutrition. Food, basically. That's what we're going to talk about. I'm going to talk about food, give you some top tips and what we're going to be working on over the next 6 weeks. But what I do want to make very clear is I am not about to hand you a calorie deficit plan. I'm not about to give you a strict list of foods that you can eat and you can't eat. Allowed to eat. There are no good, there are no bad foods. There are merely nutritious foods and less nutritious foods. That is one thing that you need to practice thinking about, because when we label foods good and bad, we bring in food guilt. And that is one thing we are going to battle over the next 6 weeks. So, what I want you to have is food freedom. And if I give you a calorie deficit and a list of good and bad foods, etc., or a food plan or a meal plan, that's not freedom. And I want you to find out and learn and understand what works for you and what doesn't. All right, this is not a cookie cutter plan. I am not saying to you, oh, I eat this and I eat that, so you must therefore eat the same. That's not what this is about. This is about building your confidence so that you have enough knowledge and self-belief that you can make healthier choices when the time is right, but you can also enjoy and eat for pleasure as opposed to macros and calories and not have any guilt about it. So you're going to learn how to take control of your choices in a way that's simple, flexible and sustainable. You're going to discover how to enjoy your favourite foods without guilt. You're going to balance your portions without obsessing. And we're going to break this over-restriction cycle Monday to Friday and then binging at the weekend. We're going to work on all of that. So by the end of this session, you'll understand why I'm not giving you a calorie deficit, and why understanding the choices that you make will help increase your confidence. All right, because yous have got this, ladies. You're more than capable of this. Yous are all strong, independent, educated women. None of yous are stupid. I'm going to show you how. So this is what we're going to do for the next 6 weeks. So starting on Monday, the 29th, I want you to not remove anything from your plates. I want you to eat as you have been eating, with just some mindful tips. So you've all got your habit tracker. The top line of your habit tracker is your scale weight. So every morning when you get up and you've had a pee, maybe a poo, I'd like you to jump on the scales and stick your scale weight in that little column for the day. By the end of the week, you will have an average. All right, they're all set up Monday to Sunday, and then there's a little box at the end that'll give you an average. So that's what I want you to do. While you're doing this or running alongside of this, I want you to track everything that you're eating on MyFitnessPal. Just a rough estimate is good. If you can weigh your food, if you've got no triggers, if you can weigh your food, that would be amazing. And then log it in MyFitnessPal. So all food and all drink, whatever crosses your lips, pop it on MyFitnessPal. While we're doing this, I would like you to remember that the only reason we are doing this is for data. We are not doing it for guilt. We are not doing it so you can look back and think, oh my God, I shouldn't have eaten that. We are doing it as a benchmark to find out how many calories and the kind of macros that you're eating on a daily basis. No judge, no guilt, no recriminations, nothing at all. It is merely data. By the end of the first week, so on Sunday night, you'll have your total calories that you've eaten every day for the week and your total protein that you've eaten every day for the week. Not interested in your carbs, not interested in the dietary fat that you're eating, merely calories and protein. This will be a benchmark. So we will see your scale weight. It's going to fluctuate every single day, regardless of what you do. We have no control over scale weight whatsoever. None whatsoever. There are too many variables that can make your scale weight increase and decrease. So for example, you could exercise. That would make the scales increase and decrease. The amount of water that you drink can make the scales increase and decrease. The quality of the sleep that you've had also can make the scales jump up, and it can make the scales drop. The kind of food that you've eaten, so if you've eaten salty food, a packet of crisps, a takeaway, that'll make the scales jump up and down. Alcohol will make the scales jump up and down. The amount of daily steps that you do will make the scales jump up and down. Your hormones, which we have absolutely bugger all control over, will make the scales jump up and down. So while you're stepping on the scales, the reason that we take an average is to balance out those fluctuations. You could literally be a perfect dietary client and the scales could still go up. All right, I really honestly cannot stipulate this enough, that you literally have zero control over what the scales do. But if you're at the stage that the scales are doing your nutting and you have a bit of the fear and you're totally scunnered with trying to be good and the scales going up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. The only way we're going to get over that is to consistently practice stepping on the scales. Then you'll get used to it and you'll understand the fact that you have no control over the scales. It is merely a piece of data. So log your food as best as you can. If you're stuck, obviously get me in the WhatsApp group and we can have a chat about it. Log your food, everything that you eat and everything that you drink, track that on MyFitnessPal for the first week, and log your scale weight. All right. Then what we're going to do is we're going to see where you're sitting, whether the scales are continuing to go up or whether they're just normal fluctuations up and down. And then we can think about what tweaks and changes we can make to the food that you're eating. All right. While you're doing this in the first week, I want you to think about the government guidelines Eat Well plate. So I'm going to pop a wee graph in for you. So the government guidelines for the Eat Well plate are 1/4 of a plate of protein, 1/4 of a plate of starchy carbs, and 1/2 a plate of fruit and veg. So if you're laying out your meals, like your breakfast, your lunch and your dinner, I want you to think about 25% of that plate of food being protein. So lean meats, chickens, lean steak, lean mince, turkey, fish. Vegetarians, obviously we've got cheese, we've got eggs, we've got nuts, we've got pulses, we've got beans. Yeah, so 1/4 of a plate, Greek yogurt, etc. 1/4 of a plate of protein, 25%. I then want you to add in a starchy carb, again 25%. We've got potatoes, pasta, rice, oats, bread, etc. All right. I then want you to have 50% of your plate as a fruit or a veg, not a starchy veg, like not a starchy carb, like not potatoes and sweet potatoes and stuff, but vegetables like carrots, broccoli, sweet corn, etc. Anything that you fancy eating. And if it's fruit, you can have berries, bananas, apples, etc, etc. All right, so 25% protein, 25% carbs, half your plate, 50% fruit and veg. I want you to do that for 3 meals. So, for example, if you're eating a sandwich, your bread would be your starchy carbs, your ham would be your filling or your chicken or whatever, and then try and get some fruit and veggies in there. So if you want to put your fruit and veggies on your sandwich, that's amazing, but maybe a wee side salad to accompany it, or you could have like a protein yogurt and then pop some fruit on it as well. So I want you to think about combinations that work for you. And again, you'll be tracking this on MyFitnessPal. If you're unsure of everything, just take a photo of what you're eating and pop it in the WhatsApp group, and then we can have a wee chat about it, and I can give you some helpful tips, all right, and help you log it on MyFitnessPal. So that's what we're going to do. At the end of the week, like I said, we'll have your total calories for the week and your total scale weights for the week. And then we can start to decide whether we're going to try and tweak your macros or not, or whether we're going to try and cut your portions slightly. So the easiest way to cut calories is to cut your portions. So you just eat the same amount of the same food that you've had, but we would take a wee nick out of some of the things that you're eating. So maybe, for example, you're making overnight oats and you're making it with 60 grams of oats. So if we want to kind of cut your calories a wee bit and get you slightly into a deficit, we would maybe just start making your overnight oats with 40 grams of porridge, 40 grams of oats. So it's things like that. I'm not asking you to take anything out. I'm just asking you that we might want to start tweaking some things to cut down on certain things and increase other things. So obviously if you cut down on your 40%, to your 40 grams of porridge oats, we might be able to get some more yogurt in there to get your protein up. All right, so it's not necessarily always about cutting your calories. It's about tweaking your macros and getting your protein in. Right, that is the plan, my lovelies. The reason we want your protein, your 25% protein on each meal, is because we want protein keeps you feeling fuller for longer, so it gets digested in the tummy. And all the other food that you eat with that protein, like your carbs and your fat and your fibre, they don't leave your stomach until your protein is processed. So if we can keep your protein levels up, you're going to feel a bit fuller for a bit longer, which cuts back on the snacking. The second thing that protein does for us midlife women is it retains the muscle that we have. So to build muscle, you need a surplus of protein. What we don't want you to do is start cutting your calories that much and not being aware of your macros, that you're actually starving all the time, but that you start losing muscle as well. We don't. If there's anything that's getting lost in this 6 weeks, it's body fat. We want to keep your muscle, so get your protein in, ladies. Carbs, so all fruit and all vegetables are carbs. And then we've got your other stuff like pasta, rice, any other grains, bread, etc. All right, they give you energy. So a lot of the problem with midlife women is that they think that they need to cut carbs out and that they treat carbs like the enemy. Carbs are not the enemy. Carbs are what actually fuels your body. It is your body and your brain's preferred source of energy. Carbohydrates. All right. A lot of the problems arise from if you think to yourself, I'm going to cut out carbs. What you actually mean by that is you're going to try and cut out pasta and rice and bread, right? That's not, we don't want to cut that out. We need that as energy. That's something that we need to practice portion control on probably, which is why I'm asking you to do 25% protein, 25% starchy carbs. Fruit and veg, knock yourself out. Eat as much as you want. Again, aim for your 50% on your plate. But whether it's a fruit, whether it's a veg, so whether it's an apple, whether it's a broccoli, whether it's a banana, whether it's a satsuma, whether it's a pear, whether it's a berry, whether it's turnip, whether it's pasta, whether it's rice, whether it's bread, all of those are carbohydrates, and that is what gives your body the energy that it needs to function, and it's what gives your brain the energy that it also needs to function. Midlife and brain fog, obviously, midlife, perimenal, menal, brain fog, they're absolutely connected. But your brain runs on sugar, or it runs on what your body converts into sugar from the carbohydrates that you eat. So your brain needs sugar and your brain needs carbohydrates. So eat your carbs, ladies. We're just going to practice portion control. Yeah. Dietary fat, we also need dietary fat. Dietary fat does not make you fat. So things like cheese, nuts, oils, etc., sauces, they don't make you fat. Too many calories in total make you fat. It doesn't matter whether that calorie comes from a dietary fat, a carbohydrate, or a protein. It doesn't matter. So please continue to use dietary fats. If you cook with olive oil, that's okay. You just need to track the olive oil that you're using. If you normally bang 3 tablespoons into the pan before you do your stir fry, maybe cut it back to a tablespoon. This is the things that we're going to try and work on. It's about portion control. It's not about cutting stuff out. And I really can't get that across enough to you. It is literally portion control. It's not about cutting stuff out. All right. Fruit and veg, I've spoke to you about that. Half a plate of fruit and veg. Whatever you choose, do not stress about trying to get 5 portions of vegetables in because you believe that the sugar and the fat and the fruit is bad for you. Just eat the fruit and veg that you like. Don't worry about whether it's a high sugar veg or a high sugar fruit or a lower sugar. Don't worry about it. Literally, honestly, I hear it all the time. Oh, I've cut fruit out because the fructose sugar in it is bad for you. Just fuck off, all right? Just eat your fruit and veg. Anything that you can eat. Obviously, the more different colours you can eat, they've all got different benefits. They've all got different stuff in it. So eat as much as you can, and it makes it more exciting for you. Do you know what makes your plate prettier? We eat with our eyes. So make it as nice as you can for yourself. It doesn't matter whether it's tinned, whether it's frozen, whether it's fresh. It doesn't matter. Just eat the fruit and veg. As long as you get half a plate in at each meal, that's totally cool. Yeah? For your snacks, because we are allowed to eat snacks, ladies. All right? Snacks are life. Snackety snack, snack, snack. But I want you to think about eating your snacks as a portion. So the portions that they come in. So maybe in the morning, you would like to have a protein yogurt, for example. That would be a portion. And think about what you can add into that. Can you add in some nuts and seeds? Can you add in a wee portion of raspberries or something? Excuse me, just a wee drink. Right, your afternoon snack. Could this be a couple of portions of fruit? So remember, snacks they're meant to tide you over to your next meal. They're not meant to be a meal in itself. Like if you're going to sit down and have a snack, and it's like a Mars bar, a packet of crisps, and you finish that off with an apple. That's actually quite a gigantic snack. So think about tiding it over. In theory, if you're eating enough protein at your meals, you're not going to need a full meal as a snack. You'll literally have a snack, like a protein yogurt, a couple of bits of fruit, maybe an apple, maybe some grapes, maybe a couple of baby bells for the protein again. Yeah, just have a portion of a snack, something that is actually just going to tide you over to your next meal. Supper. If you want supper, have a supper. Every night for my supper, I have a cup of tea and I have a Freddo. So we usually have a dinner about 6, sometime between 6 and 7. And then sometimes, usually between 8 and half 8, I'll have a cup of tea and a Freddo. That's my tastiness, basically. Now, Freddos are portioned, obviously. So that's why I like having them in that's why I like having them in the house. So if you want a snack, have a snack. No, supper, sorry. If you want supper, have a supper. But again, just track all your food on MyFitnessPal. All we're trying to do is for the first week is get a benchmark so that you know exactly how many, roughly, not exactly. MyFitnessPal is not exact science, even though it's science. And fat loss is not exact science. Calorie counting is not exact science, but it is science. So what you'll probably find at the end of the first week is that you've started to make some healthier choices, and that's what we're aiming for. Again, can I say this enough? I'm not asking you to cut anything out your diet. I'm asking you to make some mindful, healthy choices when you can, and to practice, to think about the portion sizes that you're eating. Yeah? Amazing. So we've covered meals, 25% protein, 25% carbohydrates, 50% fruit and veg. We've covered what protein does, what carbohydrates does, what dietary fat. Dietary fat, sorry, I didn't actually cover that. Dietary fat, like your olive oil, your butters, your sauces, that's the stuff that makes food tasty. So if you think about eating a dry rice cake, no very tasty. Eating a dry rice cake with 5 grams of Nutella on it, super tasty. Low fat cheese, no very tasty. Full fat cheese, quite tasty. That's why there's a difference in like skimmed milk and full fat milk. So low fat crisps, an absolute abomination, should never have been invented, like eating cardboard. Normal crisps, tasty, because they've got fat in them, all right? So, we've covered meals, 25% protein, 25% carbs, a wee bit of dietary fat to make it tasty, could be like a salad dressing, and 50% fruit and or veggies. We've covered snacks. Stick to portions, sizes. Remember, snacks are meant to tide you over till your next full meal. They're not meant to be a full meal. Think protein yogurts, fruit, veggies, wee bit of protein, if you can. All right. Supper, if you want a supper, have a supper and absolutely have a portion of whatever your thing is every day. If your thing is chocolate, have a portion of chocolate. If you can't trust yourself to have a whole bar of dairy milk and break off a strip, then don't buy the whole bar of dairy milk. Go and buy something that you are going to manage to stick to that portion. And do you know what? See if you're used to eating a share bar of dairy milk on your own without sharing it every night. If that's your thing and if that's what you're used to, see if you can cut that down to half a bar. That's amazing, because then you will understand that you can have the other half a bar the next night. Right, so you've already made headway. It's just about learning the portions and what is going to work for you. Yes, you might fuck it up, but remember, we've got 6 weeks. 6 weeks of practicing, having what you fancy every single day, but a portion of it. And if you do fuck it up, you just try again tomorrow. There's no drama, no guilt. The minute you guilt yourself is the minute you'll binge. All right, we've got 6 weeks to practice this, ladies. So the biggest takeaway that I want you to take from this episode number 2, nutrition, is that food is not the enemy. You don't need to punish yourself. We cook or cut our calorie targets. Just because you think that somebody else has managed to drop body fat on 800 calories a day, ridiculous by the way, you do not need to do this. This is about you, and this is about finding out what works for you and what gives you that element of control so you can feel less chaotic and awesome. It's about awareness of your portions, of your food choices, and it's about balance. So if you want some chocolate, have some chocolate, not necessarily a bucket full. And it's about giving yourself permission to make choices that suit you and to eat like the grown-ass woman that you are. All right, you are in midlife. Your body is different from when it was in your 20s and 30s, and this is about you finding out what works for you. You can absolutely enjoy the glass of wine. You can absolutely eat out. You can absolutely have a takeaway, and you can absolutely enjoy your favourite tasty foods. But we're not guilting ourselves. This is about building. It's about building confidence. It's not about rules. So rules are static. And the minute we introduce rules is the minute we rebel and turn into a bit of a dick. So I want you to think about guidelines and healthy choices. This is about you having standards. So if the rule is you can only eat healthy food, well, you're going to binge. If your standard is, I'm going to eat healthy food as much as I can, that's much more stickable too. Do you not think? Trust the process, ladies. Back yourself, and remember, this is for you to learn skills that are going to last longer than any quick fix diet. You're on the On Fire group, ladies. We're going to do this. I'll speak to you all soon. Bye.